have here to a conversation. Mr. Evan Christopher, we had a very nice concert.
We had 6 nice concerts, to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, there were 6 performances, but I think we decided that the first 2 were rehearsals.
That's right. The first 2 were rehearsals, very good rehearsals.
Very good rehearsals, yeah.
Yeah. And we are very privileged to have Mr. Evan here today with us and share with us his thoughts and ideas about music, about swinging, about the connection we just talked about Django Reinhardt, which I am as a guitarist. You know, I learned from Django Reinhardt. I consider myself as a gypsy jazz guitarist, and a lot of guitarists play from Django's, but we forget that Django's origins and the swing origin is in the American jazz and in New Orleans, where you come from.
Well, I guess what most people, it's not necessarily that he was so directly connected to New Orleans music, but his first, he loved and admired Louis Armstrong's records. I mean, when he first heard them, when someone played them for him, I think it was Charles Delaunay, when he played him those records, I mean, Django was just, he was taken to another planet. He couldn't believe that with Louis' phrasing, that it could be that beautiful. And I think basically what happens is the guitar players who only listen to other guitar players, they're getting all those influences, but they're getting them secondhand instead of going back to the source and really trying to figure out what it was that made Louis so special to Django and how it influenced the way Django played not only his melodic ideas, but how he actually played swing, how his concept of swing. If you only start with Django, you're missing out on a whole wealth of information because, I mean, he got the chance to work with Coleman Hawkins, he got the chance to work with Benny Carter, he got the chance to work with Bill Coleman, he got to work with a lot of American musicians, and he found a way to, more than almost any other European musician, found a way to translate what they were doing to his instrument and make it a very personal sound and approach to the music.
I think when we start from Django and then we listen to all the other guitarists that play in his genre, we are getting very fast to the way, if you call it, gypsy stress and not gypsy jazz. Just playing all these phrases very fast, and we are forgetting when you listen to Louis Armstrong and you connect it to Django, you know where to put your finger on the most important stuff. Now the most important stuff is not how you can play all these long phrases, but how you make it swing, and how you talked about how you create your version of the melody, and that the improvisation starts there.
That was a very New Orleans idea. In fact, I talk about that with people who want to learn jazz, that initially, when people learn jazz in schools, they immediately start with trying to introduce them to harmony and try to get them to figure out what to do with chords. And they forget that jazz started in New Orleans. It started out as just, it wasn't you were improvising, you were actually just embellishing the melody. And the most important, or the best thing that a musician could do was to have his own version of the melody. And a lot of the musicians would actually play. They weren't improvisers at first. It wasn't until records were coming back to New Orleans from New York that musicians realized that improvisation was going to actually get them somewhere. But also they were playing for dancers, and so to have it be different every time, or to have it be able to respond to what the dancers are doing, to have that interaction by being able to not just play what's on the page, but to adjust it to the specific moment. That's really what the impetus of jazz was. It wasn't necessarily it didn't come out of a creative aesthetic.
Yeah, I noticed to that in the performance we had together, that a lot of the songs you count it slower than what I used to play. And it reminded me that sometimes we have swing dance parties. We play to a swing dancer, and they want us to play slower.
Of course they do.
Too. Yeah, because to play in a dance rhythm, in dance tempo.
Yeah.
And you count in a dance tempo too. You prefer to play the music.
I tend to.
do you think about it of a dance tempo, or?
I think when I'm not relaxed, I think I have to really concentrate on coming up with a tempo that feels good there. And sometimes it's not only the tempo, meaning sometimes it's actually feeling, where the groove's going to be. So when we're counting off a blues, it's not only to count off the tempo where I want it, it's actually to feel the, which direction the pulse is going to lean.
Yeah.
And if you're going to lean backwards from the center of the beat, you want it to be more relaxed. So I have to think about that. So we would develop arrangements that we were going to do, and so I always try to go to that spot in the arrangement where the feeling is the most. Or sometimes I'll actually think of another song altogether to pick a tempo.
Okay.
Because that's the whatever song I have in my mind is the tempo that I want. So we'll we did a Caribbean piece. Yeah. And the tempo I wanted was Sonny Rollins' St. Thomas tempo.
So you thought about?
I thought about that recording, and I thought about, because it's just so I can hear it so clearly, because I've listened so many times. Whereas if I actually try to think about the a version that I've done of the song, it's not as clear to me. So some things leave an impression, as far as what's the right tempo. Yeah. Not that there's a right tempo, but how's it going to feel the best. And I think people. Once you amass that technical vocabulary, it's great to use it. It's very impressive. But if we really look at Django's repertoire and the tempos that he was choosing in those early periods, they're not all really fast.
No, and even though who are very fast, I couldn't imagine how fast they are, and still I started to play it or to beat calculate it. Yeah. Because it sounds slower than it really is.
Sure, and usually that's because they're actually in 2, not swinging in 4.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. For instance, there's a version of Louis Armstrong playing Dinah, one of his most famous ones with the big band. There's a video on YouTube, and it happens to be the exact same tempo as John Coltrane's Giant Steps.
Okay.
But you don't feel it. Ding 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 ding. So when you play 8 notes at that tempo, it's different. But so it just feels. But it's really, I can't remember what I calculated at. I think it's around 270 or something like that. Yeah. It's the same tempo. Louis Dinah, the same tempo as Giant Steps, and that was a real revelation to me, because it just, that seems so relaxed in that 2 feel. And I think in New Orleans we that gets stressed a lot. The old musicians who gave interviews and talked about the music, they always said that every musician on the bandstand has to be a drummer. I mean, in the sense that everybody's responsible for playing time, and it's
even if you play single notes, because in the Hot 5 of Louis Armstrong, the trumpet play the melody, and other horn player, the clarinet, he plays second voice, right, and tuba,
trombone,
and trombone.
And everybody's playing rhythm, and everybody's feeling the pulse. So, and on those recordings, it's piano instead of, it's banjo and piano, or sometimes guitar and piano. It's just kind of everybody's on 1, 2, 3, 4, stomping it out 1, 2, 3, 4, and everybody's kind of floating on top of that. But everybody's being very responsible or accountable to the rhythm. And I think every band that works together has to kind of be that way.
Yeah.
And the best bands are the ones that actually talk about the relationship that they want to have. I mean, everybody plays right in the middle of the beat. It's not gonna have the same swinging effect.
Can you demonstrate it?
Well, we can. Okay. We can. So the example of so if you set up a pulse, and I play directly on top of that pulse, it has a certain feeling. What's this?
You want to play? I can give you anything.
Sure.
Like that?
We'll give you.
G? Yeah.
doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
But when we start to listen to Louis and we start to really play with what's happening in terms of where he is in relation to that pulse, then we start to get into some more compelling, interesting things that really kind of hold our attention and our imagination. Start to play with it, and then
before the beat,
and then we're swinging, and then we're actually we're swinging. We're playing with the energy. We're playing with the energy, and we're the unexpected things start to happen.
Yeah,
and it's.
Can you give a suggestion for the students who want to apply to their playing? How can they work? How can they do it?
Well, I mean, I don't know how everybody would probably do it differently, but all I know is that when I was starting to address the issue of it, I was specifically listening to, actually when I started addressing it, I was listening to more modern music, and I was listening to the relationship of drummers and bass players, and I was realizing that the bass player's pulse was different than the ride cymbal. And I was really trying to hear the different combinations and try to really get a sense of, how much that distance was between, and realizing the different rhythm sections had different relationships. Some drummers were behind, bass players were in front. Other times the bass player was behind, and the drum, so. And then when I started to address it in terms of more traditional music, it was really just a matter of listening to Louis. Plain and simple. Louis Armstrong will unlock all the secrets of jazz. When you listen to the way he sings or the way he plays, it'll unlock the secrets of how to go back with that time. I guess I can guarantee that if a student of any instrument, but even guitar students who really want to get closer to Django, if they actually tried to put notes and feel it where Louis is feeling it, they would notice that they're instantly closer to Django. A lot of the New Orleans clarinet players had the same teacher. That was interesting. They had a clarinetist named Lorenzo Tio Jr., and he was the teacher for most of the early jazz clarinetists that came out of New Orleans. And he didn't teach jazz. He improvised a little bit with the band that he played with, A.J. Piron, but really what was important to him were things like playing in tune, always having a good attack on every note. That's really what he emphasized. Well, go ahead.
1, 2, 3, and.
About what Django was listening to, because he was definitely checking out Louis doing these things. Then we get into this again. We get back into choosing where we're going to put those notes and trying to really make something where the energy is going. But what we're looking for is something that is really more compelling, where there's room for surprises, and where instead of the energy just kind of going along like it's on a car with cruise control, where it's the energy's feeling like it's trying to go somewhere, or trying to decide where it's going to go or where it's going to take us. So we play with that around that beat.
1, 2, 3, and.
like it's gonna, it starts to feel like it's, I don't know, it just starts to, I don't want to say swings, it just starts to
Why not?
feel like, well, because because it's all swinging,
Yeah.
but it's it's just more playful.
Mm-hmm.
It's more playful and it's more. I hear Louis when I hear that. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the point is that if you really want to step into Django's shoes, it's not stepping into thinking about how he's playing the guitar. It's stepping into how he's thinking.
Mm-hmm. How we feel in music.
He was listening to these records over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's just so evident. And even harmonically, when he starts to become more advanced, you even hear more glimpses of Coleman Hawkins and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And it's part of what made him so original is that he wasn't only listening to people on his not that there were that many people on his instrument that were even close to what he was doing, but by listening to people who play other. I mean, if I only listened to clarinet players, it wouldn't be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But
When you try to embellish what you learn
to
implement in your playing.
other instruments,
Yeah.
it really starts to get into
Yeah.
some fun things.
That what I think when you hear Django, you hear a lot of times that he play a melody, and then like the horn section together, like he
Right.
playing some melody and dum pa dum pa.
That's the
dum.
nice thing
Yeah.
for you. You have that because
Yeah,
you
I
can play
can
more
do-
than one note at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, so he goes ba 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 da 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 bo bing. I mean that's it's you have the whole orchestra there. You're alternating.
Yeah.
For sure. That's I know many people who actually switched from an instrument like this and decided they wanted to play piano because they just love all of a sudden being able to play more than one note